Hey everybody, this is Tim Eyman. I was trying to do Facebook Live with everybody on the group page, but it would not allow me to stay on. So I'm going to do it through the public page, through everybody. Appreciate everybody coming on. Hopefully we'll have a chance to have a lot of people involved. Again, it's love, comment, share, get everybody involved here. I'm here to answer questions. I got posed a bunch of questions, and I'm going to be answering a bunch of those on this. Our yay is howdy howdy right now. I get extra points and love for pronouncing it correctly. Our yay. Eric's son, Romy's brother, great family. So anyway, love you guys. Just want you to weigh in. Again, share this page, tag your friends, make sure to like and comment on this page. Let me know what city you're living in. So really, really important for people to be able to weigh in. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a good discussion. Last night was a really good one, but I was sitting here flipping through the pages and everything, and I was having trouble finding the questions, and this I think is going to be a lot better. My team was able to kind of compile all the questions that have been asked by everybody. Mikey from Clarkston, fantastic. Tiffany, good evening. I love you. Lori, fantastic. So glad you're weighing in. Hi, Tim. What would you do at the end? No mass, no service. Noel from Squim. Love Squim. One of my favorite people, Dagny, is from Squim. Great lady. John Michael from Spokane. Fantastic. You're weighing in. Nathan says, hey. I say that too. Hey. Chelsea weighing in from Spokane as well. Parkland, Rebecca. So what we're going to talk about tonight, frankly, I'm just going to do a lot of these questions that I've been given, and I'm going to have a chance to answer some of those. As you're letting me know what city you're from, feel free to weigh in with any questions you have. To answer Noel's question, Mass will become optional when Governor Eyman takes over. This entire idea of mandating it, I just think is the wrong way to go. Imposing fines and jail time if you don't wear one is insane. Using police power like this, forcing business owners to be your watchdog, I think it just shows you Jay Inslee wants to get all the credit with none of the responsibility. He says law enforcement's got to keep track of it, but they're not really in charge of it. Business owners have to do it. We'll fine you if you don't. Jason, thank you so much for weighing in. I love you, man. Daryl from Vancouver, the Fighting 49th, going to be in Vancouver tomorrow for a big debate down there. And Mike from Marysville, who won't actually give me a ride down there, you dirty dog. I'm holding it totally against you. And then with everybody weighing in. So I'm just going to go ahead and weigh in on the first question. Drum roll, please. Charlotte asked the question, is there any way to stop Inslee from forcing people to wear masks? Question mark. Even the small children? Exclamation point. I can send you supported evidence why wearing a mask for too many hours every day is unhealthy, inasmuch as the left Inslee thinks it will protect us. All he is doing is marking people as a reminder he is still in control. Is there, again, Charlotte's question, is there any way to stop Inslee from forcing people to wear masks? First of all, let us always remember civil disobedience is always every individual's individual right. You cannot be forced to wear a mask. The question is whether or not you're willing to not wear a mask and face the consequences for not doing so. That is where it starts to get a little trickier. What am I doing to stop him from imposing it mandatorily is we're doing a lawsuit. Our lawsuit is seeking to get the judge in Thurston County Superior Court. We filed it last Friday to get the judge to acknowledge the fact that all these things that Inslee and his health director are doing are just simply not spelled out in the Constitution. And if he wants them, he has to do it through representative democracy, where he calls a special session and they pass a law. You can't just do this stuff unilaterally by continually saying, yeah, there was an emergency several months ago. That's pretty much over, but I'm just going to keep this merry-go-round going by doing that. So short answer is I'm doing everything I can to make them not force you to do it, but no one can force you to wear a mask. You just have to fundamentally decide how much you want to go out and deal with the harassment. So file that one away. From TJ Simon. It is a video of our child. Okay. Oh, actually, this one was continued down below, so I'm going to come back to that one. From Klaus. My question is, how much do we have to worry about the vaccine exemptions? I think it's very important whenever it comes to anything that they're talking about, when it comes to vaccines and mandatory things that the government is requiring us to do, always realize Tim is, as your governor, if you elect me, if you allow me to run against Inslee and vote for me in August, you're not going to worry about requirements. You're going to have to worry about Tim trying to convince you to do certain things. That's what the South Dakota governor ended up doing, where she ended up treating people like adults. She counted on people's personal responsibility. She counted on she called it the common sense of South Dakotans is what she was going to count on. She provided information. The information was up to them to decide how to be able to use it. And what they ended up finding was more and more people cooperating because she was treating them like adults. So with that, let me just again encourage you to like, love everything that we're doing right now. Corey's asking about $30 tabs. We're going to get to that. That's one of the questions that's in here. But also just the whole idea of vaccines, tracing, facial recognition technology, all that stuff. Tim ain't in favor of that stuff. So very, very important for you to know that. And whenever it comes to the exemptions from it, I think that we should all be exempt from these government mandates, and we should elect somebody that recognizes the fact that government's police power has to be used sparingly and should not be done the way he's doing it now. Rebecca just said she's born in South Dakota. Very cool. Let me see. Lisa Young asked the question, can anyone explain how this is happening? The guns being handed out in the city, making deals with these idiots, and $100 million negotiated while working people that lost their jobs still are not receiving unemployment as they lost, cough, cough, $1 billion to Nigerian scammers. Not buying that one either. If the mayor and governor are letting this happen, it is not, why isn't it a criminal offense? And who can stop all this nonsense? Lisa asks a totally reasonable question. How can anyone explain how this is happening? When you have one party controlling all branches of government, including coordinating the police, all the enforcement, law enforcement, they're all under Democrat rule. As a result, laws don't apply to them unless you call them on it, unless you challenge them on it. That's why we're doing the lawsuits we've done. We're doing one on the essential versus non-essential stuff. We want to make sure, I've just called the Washington State's Donald Trump. Elect him, Eyman. John says, Washington State's Donald Trump. Enormous compliment. To be compared to the president. And there are a lot of similarities. You know, when he ran, he hadn't been an elected official before. Same with me. He was clearly involved in the political process for many years. I clearly have been. I'm not a billionaire, however. Little contrast there, where clearly I am clearly somebody that has been doing the activist role for 22 years. So it is frustrating for everybody. I'm doing everything I can to represent people by suing Inslee in both state and federal court. The essential versus non-essential. The mass requirement is being challenged. The entire idea that they're shutting down private businesses, we took that one to the state Supreme Court. There are numerous things that we're doing in order to fight back because a lot of us are not going to make it to November. And I really sincerely feel for the people that are suffering right now and that are just beside themselves, stuck with Jay Inslee as their governor, and they just want to do something about it. And all you can do is support somebody like myself that will absolutely go after him with absolute furor. with absolute unbridled enthusiasm, because that's what you need to have any chance to be able to take him out. They did do this $1 billion to Nigerian scammers, and I think that is something that I'm going to highlight over and over and over again. And I do not believe that it's all some kind of accident. I think that's just ridiculous. From Amanda, Renata Gibbons, what plan do you have ready to execute immediately upon being elected to combat child slavery in the child sex slave industry here in Washington State? I believe when it comes to any of these kinds of issues, I think one of the biggest things that I think we're going to start with is clearly going to be the message that voters are sending when it comes to the passage of, or I should say, the rejection of Referendum 90 in November. This whole idea of introducing sex and sex materials into our grade schools, into our junior highs and high schools. Normal sex ed is normal sex ed, but bringing it down to children and toddlers is just insane. And clearly what is really helpful about referendums and ballot measures is that it is absolutely a great way for the voters to affirmatively say where they stand. And clearly taking advantage of children is something that has to be tops on our list. Clearly, we need to make sure that the government is doing everything they can to protect them. But at the end of the day, we're just simply not able to do any of this stuff unless we actually beat Jay Inslee in November. There's tremendous numbers of people that are experts on all these various topics. And clearly, this is one that we need to tackle aggressively. And we're going to have the wind at our backs, because I fundamentally believe that the voters of Washington are going to reject Referendum 90. Referendum is repealing and getting rid of the 5395 that Inslee signed into law. So let me see. Rob James Baker, how would you fix Seattle, the lawless zone? The way you fix a problem is to make sure it never happens in the first place. That was Jay Inslee's first mistake, is that he didn't even acknowledge that it even existed. If you recall, he had a press conference and he was asked by Keith Eldridge for Como 4 News, said, what's your opinion on what's going on in Seattle? And he said, well, that's news to me. I didn't know anything about it. First of all, know what's happening in your state. Let's start with that. Second thing you should do is actually go down there and see it. I went down there on the first or second day, right after Inslee denied that it existed. I went down there to report on it, to see it, to actually interact with people, to listen to people, and as it turns out, stand up to a mob that was telling me to leave, and I was refusing. But I was doing it respectfully and acknowledging the fact that they have the right to be heard. Even when they're in a lawless situation like that, you should at least listen to them. But they were more interested in calling me names because I had been doing so many conservative initiatives over the years, and I wasn't apologizing for it. I was actually wearing it as a badge of honor, wearing my $30 tab sticker on one shoulder and Tim Eyman for governor. So how would I fix it? I would fix it by never allowing it to becoming a problem in the first place. They've now opened it up. I went there just 2 days ago, had a chance to actually interact with some police officers at the East Precinct. You can actually smell the paint of the newly painted East Precinct, because it used to be, completely covered over with graffiti and, wire and razor wire and everything. And now it's opened back up. And I was asking the officers, what are you expecting? And they said during the day it wasn't that bad, but they were wondering about later that night. Let me see. We have Rebecca Diamond. Do you plan to overturn Inslee's facial recognition deal and the ridiculous new vaccine law changes, both done sneakily behind our backs? Rebecca, sneakily is now the word of the day. Facial recognition. Very important, and it's mind-blowing how enthusiastic people were on our effort to overturn that. We have a fantastic CTEC resident named Lewis. Lewis is willing to lead this local initiative where we just need 2,100 signatures to actually get it qualified for this November's ballot, where we would prohibit the use of facial recognition tracking within the city limits of SeaTac, which would include SeaTac Airport, and it specifically says SeaTac Airport. What I think is what I'm really enthusiastic about that is that it becomes a campaign issue as well, because it's not just the policy, it's the corrupt practice that they went through to adopt it. This is where Representative Jim Walsh really educated me on it. I was always against the tracking, but when I learned that what he did was, once the bill passed the House and the Senate, once they came together to reconcile the two, the ACLU was already against the earlier versions. Once they ended up merging the two, they stripped away all the consumer protections that were originally in it. They weren't good ones, but at least they had something in there. They took those out and passed them in the House and the Senate, and Inslee signed it into law. It's a horrible, horrible law, and really bad. And Amazon has pulled away because of the racial discrimination potential, the 90% false positive rate that you get with facial recognition tracking. IBM has pulled back from it, but this is all kind of a dodge for them to wait for Inslee to be reelected. If he gets reelected, full steam ahead. Elect me, I would absolutely shut it down without a doubt. And there's no doubt that this stuff was passed sneakily as well. Joanne Saland asked, I see you working very hard also. Would you please explain why you're being sued for representing us? Some Republicans say you have too much baggage. I'm thinking it is because the left is trying to stop you from fighting for us, but if you could address it. Absolutely. For 22 years, I've been an activist helping voters pass conservative legislation that puts limits on government's power. All those initiatives have saved the taxpayers over $43 billion. So I'm under constant attack by the media and by the Democrats and by those in charge because I'm merely a person. I'm just an individual, yet look what we've been able to accomplish. Limits on affirmative action, caps on property taxes, lowering car tab taxes lower than they ever were before. As high as they are today, they're less than half what they used to be. So clearly that makes me a target. As far as baggage is concerned, every single candidate that is in this race is getting the crap dumped on them right now. The question is, which one of us is better able to counterattack and be able to counter those things? There is no doubt that I'm being sued for one original sin, and that was pushing initiatives that the voters agreed with that took money that was normally going to go to the government and allowed it to actually stay in the hands of the people that actually earned it in the first place. So what I really want to emphasize is that if I wasn't effective, they wouldn't be suing me. If I was pushing initiatives that raised taxes and were passing them, I'd be getting awards right now. This one with Bob Ferguson has been going on for 7 years. 7 years. It has cost the government well over $1.5 million. I think it might be approaching $2 million going after me. One person. The only reason I've survived this long is thousands of people have been willing to give to my legal defense fund in order to be able to allow me to be able to fight back and hire lawyers to defend me. Now, what they say is that, well, wait a minute, all these people that helped you, you needed to put that on a campaign report, and that needed to be on your paperwork. That's not the way the law works. The law specifically says, and the PDC acknowledges that, legal defense fund money is exempt from all the campaign reporting requirements because it's not a campaign. You would have to believe that this lawsuit is a political lawsuit in order to be able to say it's a political campaign when somebody gives money to my legal defense fund or helps me able to survive the thing. So I'm being sued because I've been effective. I'm being sued because we've actually succeeded in getting the voters to vote for our initiatives over the years. And the other candidates in the race, they got their problems. They're all getting all sorts of stuff dumped on them. But the advantage that I have is that I have 22 years of experience actually fighting back through that. I have built up a reputation of actually delivering results so that as I get attacked, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, that's the guy who saved me $10,000 on my car tabs. That's the guy who saved me $20,000 on my car tabs. That's Tim Eyman. That's the guy, that's that $30 tabs guy. I've got a built-in reservoir of goodwill among voters. The other candidates, they've never done anything for individual voters that will help them overcome their stuff. Now, my stuff has been out ever since I've been running. And everything they're throwing at me is the same stuff they did last year. They're bringing up the chair. They're bringing up the paperwork for my campaigns. None of that stuff worked all of last year as I was pushing the $30 tabs initiative. There's nothing new there. These other guys are dealing with stuff that is just dropping in the last couple of weeks, and they're being defined and attacked and known all at the same time. Everybody knows me for 22 years. They know me. They know all my background. So they know that the chair and the campaign reporting stuff, they put all that in the same category of Eyman's out there fighting for us and they're throwing more mud at him. But it's not new mud. It's all the old mud, the mud that didn't work before. All the other guys, they're dealing with stuff. Oh my God. I would much rather be me defending my stuff, which is nothing compared to the stuff that's going on over there. I mean, the other guys, woo, first-time candidates, first of all, they actually have never run a statewide campaign. I've run 17 of them. I've won 11 of them. I've actually delivered results for you, not only for 22 years, but also during this actual campaign, running for office, opening up the schools in the fall. I mean, that alone is done more for education, me as a candidate, than anything Jay Inslee's done for 8 years. The other guys, they're dealing with stuff that is just like, wow. And you know that it's the other candidates leaking on the other candidates and attacking them, and it's just what they do. I'm focused on Jay Inslee because I know Jay Inslee's the problem, and these guys, I've been telling them for literally months, stop going after each other. All you're doing is helping Jay Inslee. But they all seem to think that that is the way to do things, and so they're crapping on each other and, you know, doing Facebook Lives on one another, and I just think it's nuts. It doesn't make any sense to do that, but I'm focused on Jay Inslee, and the only thing I will say about the other candidates is, let's just be honest. I mean, I think voters want to vote for somebody that they actually already know, not that they're getting to know. The battle scars that I have are from all the victories that we've scored for the taxpayers, and I am stronger as a result of it. I'm tougher because of it. I have a dinosaur skin compared to it. I've watched the other candidates, and they are very thin-skinned and not very good at taking itty-bitty little criticisms, and they get very, very worked up when people bring up anything about them. People are going to bring stuff up about you when you're running for office. And if you didn't get your, skeletons taken care of before you ran, they're all bringing them up here at the last minute when there's no time to really be able to clean it up. And my stuff has just been known for, like I said, the campaign reporting stuff, 7 years. The chair was like February of last year, so like a year and a half ago, and none of it actually made a whit of difference. I got a little sidetracked on that one, but I just wanted to answer that one thoroughly. Shannon Jordan Daniel, what about the Chelan Douglas County lawsuit? Crickets. I'm not able to answer it as well because I'm not the attorney involved with that one, or I should say I'm not the one who arranged to have the attorney handle that one. So I'm just not as familiar with that one. I do know that there are other lawsuits going on. Frankly, the Freedom Foundation, good for you guys. Freedom Foundation is also suing on the mask. So we have our lawsuit in Thurston County Superior Court, Olympia, seeking to challenge the mask mandate. Freedom Foundation filed theirs in Lewis County. Now, that gives us 2 bites at the apple. That gives us 2 opportunities to be able to do it. Adam says, you are like Donald Trump. Answer the question, why and how? Why and how? Why am I like Donald Trump? And in what way am I like Donald Trump? I would be curious what people's opinion is on that. What would you have done, Tim, if you were in office? If this continues into November, what would you do to rectify it should you be elected governor? The South Dakota governor is my model. What she did was she trusted people. She didn't do mandates, fines, police power. Instead, what she did was she brought people the information. She tried to convince them of what the right thing to do was, best practices, and guess what? It worked better. She had a better outcome from the situation. And when she signed an order, it was like a month and a half ago, called Back to Normal. Back to normal. You know what they did? They ended up throwing her parade. They threw a parade for the South Dakota governor. Anybody, show of hands, how many people think Jay Inslee deserves a parade right now? Anybody out there think he deserves a parade? That's likes and loves if you think that's a great idea. I don't think so. What would I have done? I simply wouldn't have suspended representative democracy. I wouldn't have suspended it. This whole idea, abuse of executive power, is the worst thing that we've ever seen come out of this governor. And that's saying something. You wouldn't think that, of all the things he's done, I mean, he raised taxes $50 billion. He said voters were confused on $30 tabs. He took $5 million to run for president. He ended up throwing $1 billion over to Nigeria. But what he did on executive power and basically saying the legislature doesn't exist, nobody else exists, I'm going to simply make all decisions for 7 million people. Sorry, guys. I've got my hands full running my own life. I have no interest in running the lives of 7 million people. If you elect me your governor, you're going to be electing a representative, and you're not electing a ruler the way we have right now. Susan says, if you were not running for governor, who would you vote for and why? Fun question. Honestly, it does bring up the entire reason I was running in the first place. After our $30 tabs initiative passed last November, it was really an extraordinary moment. For those of you who've been following me for last couple of weeks, Riley and I have talked about it. What an incredible, arduous task it was to get us our $30 tabs the third time. The first two times, they were very hard too. Back when I was young and 32, and I did it again when I was 35. Here I was doing it when I was 51, 52, 53, 54. This was something that we had been working on for literally years. And in the midst of all this, you have Ferguson trying to impose a lifetime ban on all my future political activity. The fact that I was also had to deal with the wonderful chair situation, them attacking me for everything. We managed to, in the midst of that shoot storm for 8 months, we still got that initiative qualified for the ballot. Karen and I ended up selling off our retirement fund. We loaned the campaign a huge amount of money in order to kickstart it because I'm that committed to making sure that we actually get these conservative victories that I think the voters are clearly in favor of. And so once the initiative qualified for the ballot, we then dealt with 11 months of them just crapping on me, spending $5 million educating everybody to vote no on Tim Eyman's $30 tabs initiative. As it turned out, they were spending $5 million to help elect me governor because what they ended up doing was they got everybody to know who I was. A couple weeks afterwards, once I saw how rigged the system had become, the fact that Inslee said you were confused, the fact that Seattle sued the voters because they didn't like the outcome, the fact that this thing was being heard in a King County courthouse in downtown Seattle by a judge appointed by Jay Inslee, and our defense, our team, our legal team was Bob Ferguson. The fix was in, and I simply couldn't allow it to go forward. So it motivated me to say, I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to take this guy out because this is the only way that I can absolutely guarantee that the voters will get those $30 tabs that they fought for and deserve. So, but when I decided to run, I looked at the other candidates. I looked at everybody who was currently running, and I just didn't see anyone that was running, that's running now, that had any track record of winning. None of them have experience actually running a statewide campaign, and I just didn't see that fight, that toughness that you need to have that, frankly, our president has. I didn't see the animalistic furor that it takes in order to be able to take down somebody like Jay Inslee in a state like Washington. I just didn't see it. I saw a bunch of nice guys that were running for office, and I simply could not, in good conscience, sit back and say, you know what, I'm just going to count on one of them to pull it off. It looked to me like what Albert Einstein said. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We've had candidates over the years run against Democrats on a statewide basis that are just nice guys, nice people. And in order to win, I think our president taught us that you have to be really aggressive. And I am aggressive. I am absolutely aggressive. I'm aggressive pushing our conservative values, our conservative ideas. I'm used to being in the snake pit of politics because I've succeeded over and over again with our campaigns, and I just didn't see any of the other candidates being able to pull it off, and that's what got me into the race. So to answer your question, you know, who would I vote for if it wasn't me? I would vote for the Republican that wins the primary. If you were pulled over, what would you say to the officer about your expired tabs? This is easy because it's already happened twice. I've been pulled over twice for expired tabs. My son has been pulled over twice for expired tabs. We all say the same thing, and we've gotten 4 warnings. And that is, officer, it's not like I forgot. Wasn't like I'm being cheap or frugal. I'm willing to pay $30 for my car tabs, but I'm not willing to pay a penny more. This is in litigation right now, and this is a peaceful protest on my part. And I would just respectfully request, officer, that you use your discretion and issue me a warning today, sir. Please give that your consideration. Drippingly nice, drippingly respectful, but you're telling him the truth. The truth is, you are doing this civil disobedience, you can call it that. I call it peaceful protest because it is. It's a peaceful protest. I'm refusing to pay taxes and fees the voters said no to, and I cannot bring myself as an American, as a Washingtonian, as a person, as a man, I cannot just roll over for the government and say, you know what, even though the voters made it illegal to pay these taxes and fees, I'm going to pay them anyway. I couldn't do it. But the other thing that gives me peace of mind is that I've been driving around for 8 months with expired tabs and only pulled over twice. There are only so many law enforcement officers out there, people. The likelihood of getting pulled over for expired tabs, very slim. If you are pulled over, you say, this is peaceful protest, I'm willing to pay $30, not a penny more. I would respectfully ask, most of the time, officers know what's going on and they're willing to give you a warning. If they're not willing to give you a warning, you do not pay it. You appeal it. And right now, during this time, you would probably likely do your appeal online, as in you would not even a Zoom. You would probably do it in writing. You would send a letter to the judge saying the exact same thing. But it's months from now. Now, I've had a situation where I have had tickets and I have gone to court, and many times the judge will simply say, pay the court costs. Court costs are sometimes $25, $50. The most I've ever seen is $75. So at the end of the day, I think it's worth the risk, but civil disobedience, you have to accept the fact that you accept the consequences of it if you don't, but use our legal system to make it very clear that we want to have a lot of patriots that aren't just rolling over, but instead are appealing these tickets. And it's months from now that you ever end up getting in court anyway. Jana Hardistry says, would you employ any of the others running for governor? Absolutely. That would be no problem whatsoever. That's a really important point, is that I can hire an administrator to help me administer government, but no one can hire me to win the election for them. I think I'm best positioned to beat Jay Inslee because I'm the best matchup with him. Because our initiatives have lowered taxes $43 billion and he's raised taxes $50 billion, I think that puts me in a very strong position to have that contrast on taxes. He says voters were confused. I say voters weren't confused. $30 tabs. You vote for him, you're not going to get $30 tabs. You vote for Eyman, you know you will. I've got this built up goodwill from people because I've lowered everybody's taxes over the last 22 years. I've fought against tax increases over the years. That is a stark contrast. I'm in favor of what the voters have said over and over again on affirmative action, and that is that the government should treat everyone equally. Jay Inslee, however, says he wants to get the Asians off of our college campuses because there's too many of them, and we need to bring in other people in order to be able to take their spots. I was the sponsor of the original Initiative 200, which was the Washington State Civil Rights Initiative, and I think that puts me nose to nose against Jay Inslee as the absolute best contrast, and frankly, I am the most aggressive candidate by far, night and day difference as far as being aggressive about what it's going to take to actually win the election. So, but all the other guys are good guys, and I would absolutely offer them a position in the government if they want it. Some of them may want to just go back to their lives. Joshua is a very wealthy developer and, making lots of money, and good for him. We believe in capitalism. He may not want to do that. Lauren Culp, he's the police chief in Republic. Maybe he just wants to do that. The other candidates that are in the race, Phil Fortunato, he's a state senator. Does he want to just keep doing that, or does he want to be, in charge of, in charge of the Department of Transportation? I mean, each one I would absolutely reach out to and offer, but it would be up to them to decide whether or not to do it. But it's up to voters to decide which of us would actually have the best shot to beat Jay Inslee. And obviously I'm biased. I wouldn't be running if I thought any of them could have pulled it off. And I also think that the reason I'm running is because I think, I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't know that I was training for 22 years to run for governor and to be governor. I was born and raised and spent the first half of my life on the east side of the state, so I understand Eastern Washington, I think, better than Jay Inslee ever would, and the other candidates in the race, frankly. Many of them are now visiting the east side of the state for the first time. The west side of the state is where I've spent the last half of my life, where I am right now. And I've traveled the state for 22 years, pushing these conservative ideas, and so I have support in all 39 counties, and I've got that reservoir of support. The other thing that I got to say, and I'm so proud of this thing, I can't stand it, is that I remembered I was in Seattle, downtown Seattle. I'm going to this pizza place. It's in North Lake. It's in Lake Union. It's called North Lake Tavern. And I walk in, and this blue-collar guy just immediately looks at me and just goes, You're that $30 tabs guy. You're that Eyman guy. And I go, yeah, that's me. And he goes, how's it going? With small talk. And he goes, you know what? You remind me of somebody. You remind me of somebody. Who is it? Who is it? Who's that guy? And he kind of, had to think about it for a little while. And he said, Bernie. You remind me of Bernie. Oh, and Bernie Sanders? He goes, yes, Bernie Sanders. Of course, I choked a little bit, just being compared to Bernie Sanders. But I asked the follow-up question, what makes you say that? And he said, because you both fight for the little guy. You both fight for the little guy. And what it teaches me is that there are Democrats, independents, Republicans, people all across the political spectrum that don't get into the whole, who is Inslee, who's these other guys that are running. They know the $30 tabs guy. They're going to vote for the guy they already know, and they're going to feel a lot more comfortable doing it. And they're not even going to worry about whether or not I got a Republican name, R next to my name, or an I next to my name, or a D next to my name. They don't care. They just know it's Tim Eyman, the $30 tabs guy. And I can't tell you how many people over the last 22 years have said to me, you've saved me more money as an activist than any politician ever has. And I really want people to think about that. How much goodwill does it get you when you're the person out there lowering people's taxes by putting ideas out there, building a team of people, and convincing voters to vote for it? And in a state like this one, where everyone seems to think we're a very liberal state, I think the initiatives that I've sponsored, the ideas that I put forward, the fact that we got them passed, shows you that the voters of this state are absolutely in favor of these conservative ideas, and I'm simply asking these same people to vote for these same ideas all over again simply by voting for me. I think they have actually a better comfort level with me than I think they're ever going to have with Inslee, and the other candidates, all good guys, but they've never done anything for individual voters to have that built-in reservoir of support. And trust me, I'm like making sure that everybody knows I will veto any tax increase. I will veto any attack on the Second Amendment. I'm going to have so many vetoes, I'm going to set a world record, Guinness Book of World Record, for vetoing bad pieces of legislation in Olympia, because most of the time the bills they pass are all expansions of government power. And I'm totally against that. So I'm doing all the same stuff, advocating for the same stuff, addressing homelessness, addressing the drug epidemic, making sure that we actually have law and order again. I'm saying the exact same thing, and I'm committed to doing the exact same thing the other candidates are doing. The only difference is I've actually done these things already for people. You already see that track record. They already see those proven results. I'm not just saying what I'm for. I've already fought for it, and I've already shown you that this is something that I'm willing to fight for. Isn't there a Second Amendment rally at the Capitol tomorrow? These are old questions, so I'm not sure. This must have been the one that I went to. The other candidates dropped out, frankly, and so I was the only one to end up speaking at the March for Your Rights rally recently. And what was really neat about Tessa and Matt Marshall and the people that sponsored the event is that they gave me the time of the other candidates. So I was only supposed to talk for like 4 minutes, but I was able to talk for 11 minutes for two reasons. The other candidates had backed out, and also because fundamentally they told me there was a rule that I couldn't talk past a certain amount of time, and I broke that rule because follow the rules, you're probably going to lose. And so it's a good example also with the voters pamphlet statement. I bash Inslee relentlessly, even though there's a rule that says you can't even mention him. The other candidates, they didn't even mention Jay Inslee. If you want to beat Jay Inslee, you have to make sure that you actually criticize Jay Inslee. And you can't criticize Jay Inslee enough. There's so much to work with. And I did it relentlessly, talking about how he betrayed us, all these horrible things. I did it because I knew the system, because I've done it for 22 years. So with all that being said, may I ask, Josh asked the question, may I ask why you're a Republican and not another party like Libertarian? I originally launched my race as an independent. And the reason I did that is because all the initiatives we've done over the years, I had Republicans, Independents, and Democrats voting for them. So I kind of felt like, well, I shouldn't pick a party. Then it kind of dawned on me, well, by saying independent, I am picking a party. So if I'm going to pick a party, why don't I actually pick the party that actually has helped get all the initiatives that we've done on the ballot? If it wasn't for the Republican Party and the grassroots of the Republican Party, none of these initiatives ever would have qualified for the ballot. And frankly, I chalk it up to people like Marlin Jensen and Delane Ehrlich and Dave McMullen and a lot of grassroots people that once I got into the race, they said, we want to win, and we know that we're more likely to win with you running as a Republican because we can help you. And they really, really impressed upon me that point. My big point that I would really say is, why am I running as a Republican? Because I'm a Republican. What's my status on the school lawsuit? We won. So what's really kind of neat about the school lawsuit is that when Inslee shut down the schools, he did several things that were beyond stupid. One of the things he did that was beyond stupid is he said, hey kids, while your schools are shut down, your grades aren't going to go down. That was beyond stupid. He told kids, whether you do your homework or not, you're going to get the same grade. Really stupid. But the other thing he did was he said, well, we're going to maybe open them in January, but maybe later and maybe never. And so what I am so proud of was organizing this lawsuit to open up the schools now, open schools now, help fundraise and actually raise the money necessary in order to be able to do it. Ended up bringing forward just an amazing team. Joel Ard, one of the smartest attorneys you could ever imagine, was our attorney. 3 single moms, 1 with a grandson, 2 with sons, all of them without internet access. And that lawsuit ultimately made it where Inslee was forced to have the schools open in this fall. They would not be opening this fall if it wasn't for that lawsuit. We're actually looking at doing a follow-up lawsuit on it because they did some things with the rules that were really bad, and we think that we might have another line of attack on that. Again, like the page, love the page, do everything you can to comment on this. I'm mostly focusing on the questions because I think I owe it to people to answer these questions that they put out for me in the past. Forgive me to the people that are doing comments there that I'm not answering there. Hey, Anthony Mixer asked the question. I love Anthony, by the way. Endorsed me, and I'm so grateful for his support. Come to a lot of our events. Young, earnest young man joined us at the school's lawsuit. Just an amazing person. He said, hey, Tim, thoughts on the Lewis County Sheriff denouncing Inslee's mask order? If I remember correctly, this is the one that said you don't need to be sheep. And what the Lewis County Sheriff was trying to get across is make your own choices in your life. And I think that needs to be something that needs to be emphasized more and more. It seems to me that Inslee is so obsessed with running the lives of 7 million people that he absolutely seems to be enjoying the power trip that he's on. That every day he holds a press conference, he has the life and death of millions of people in his hands, and whatever he feels like doing that day, he can just do. There's no checks and balances at all. That's the reason why we're doing these lawsuits. That's what the judiciary is there for, what the legislature is there for, is that there are 3 co-equal branches of government. Not under Jay Inslee. Under Jay Inslee, there's 1 branch of government. His. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I just saw a comment. Who was that? I was at Lewis County Court that day, and Joel Ard is amazing, says Patty. Absolutely true. Joel was extraordinary. But the judge ended up saying on a procedural thing, well, I'm going to send it over to Thurston County and allow it to be argued over there. As soon as it got moved to Thurston County, Joel Ard was all ready to file it. 2 days before he files it, Jay Inslee and all these guys throw in the towel and say, we're opening him up in the fall. By doing that, we didn't have to go forward with the lawsuit after all. It's the absolute best outcome from a lawsuit is when your opposition throws in the towel, they're acknowledging the fact after they had seen the lawsuit in Lewis County, they just knew they were going to lose. And think about how obvious it is shutting down schools going to make it easier for the state to uphold its constitutional mandate to provide a good education to our kids? Obviously, it wasn't. You had 3 kids that didn't even have internet access. Most kids aren't even participating, even if they have internet access. So it was obvious we was going to win. And so now we have the schools opening in the fall. So I love the fact that the Lewis County Sheriff was willing to call Inslee on the mask thing. And clearly, the mask order is something that we're challenging in court, and the Freedom Foundation is challenging in court. What I love about this whole process is that we're all in this together. We're all fighting together. I'm not threatened by other people doing lawsuits like the Freedom Foundation. I'm thrilled they're doing it. I mean, this is fantastic. This gives us 2 ways for us to finally get Inslee to start listening to us. This Friday, the lawsuit with a preliminary injunction in it regarding the essential versus non-essential stuff is before a federal judge settle this coming Friday. And we're expecting a ruling, at least on a preliminary matter, on whether or not they're even going to have oral arguments. Let's see. Tim, a question about CHOP. I hate calling it CHOP because it sounds so cute, because it's a name that they gave it. It was Seattle's Lawless Zone. I called it Inslee's Lawless Zone. I called it it's just awful. Tim, a question about CHOP, was asked to Inslee about his feeling about this and how Jenny Durkin was handling the situation. And his response was he wasn't aware of the situation and was going on in his single largest city in the state. John is exactly right. Inslee just denied that it was even existing. And the reason he did was neither one's a good answer. He doesn't know what's happening in his own state, and that's believable because, frankly, he's tuned us out. We bore him. He's more interested in bashing the president and doing tweets against the president than he is anything having to do with the state of Washington. He is so excited. He just basically got the bug of national politics again. He used to be a congressman for many years, and so he's itching to go back to Washington, D.C. And so he doesn't like the fact that he's just bored out of his mind. So it's possible he just didn't even know. Just didn't even flippin' know that what was actually happening. What's more likely, he knew and he lied because he knew how humiliating and embarrassing it was, the fact that in his own state, in this city, that where he is supposedly obsessed with making sure to make Seattle happy, that there was 6 blocks that had been taken over by anarchists. And so I went down there to report on it, to actually find out if they had seceded from America. It was the weirdest situation in the world, but I was dead serious. It's an absolutely serious point. When there's absolute lawlessness going on in your state, and I used to live in Seattle, I used to live right around Green Lake before I really got politically active. I didn't see any big deal about it. I was living in Seattle. Look what they've done to our city, to our state. I mean, this is so appalling. And I absolutely hate it. And another reason to vote for me is that I'm going to clean this stuff up. Tim, what would you do to fix this backlog of unemployment claims? What would I do? Well, first of all, you fire the woman that's in there now, who's an Obama bundler. You hold her accountable by getting rid of her. Jay Inslee won't fire her because she's wealthy and she's connected, and so she is a stepping stone for his move into the other Washington, D.C. How do you backlog it? You actually hire somebody who's committed to actually fixing the problem. You have to have somebody who's committed to the problem. Unemployment claims for regular working class folks, Jay Inslee doesn't care about working class folks. He's already said they're non-essential. He already made a judgment call. There are some people that are important and some aren't. For 22 years, I've been fighting for regular average taxpayers. That's what I've done for 22 years. Those are the people that I care about. Those are the people that I'm fighting for. I'm frankly fighting for all citizens, but come on, the working class, the average taxpayer, they are the least represented individual in our political system. They don't have lobbyists. They don't have individuals that are looking out for them. Our citizen initiatives finally gave the average taxpayer an equal voice on our political system. And look what we've been able to accomplish from the outside using a broken system. Imagine having one branch of government with somebody that's been fighting for regular working class folks for 22 years, getting into power to be able to actually hire people that are committed to making sure that unemployment claims are actually paid to the people that actually paid into the system. I think it would be an improvement. What do you say to the people who mention stealing a chair or quirky news about you and your money issues? What do I say to people? What I say to people is it's all not true. It's just crap. It's just what you do. It's not like it's new stuff. 22 years I've been doing these initiatives, and I've been attacked all throughout that time. I'm trying to remember some of the earlier ones. I didn't vote often enough. I had put postcards in the recycling bin at the post office. Did a big news story splash in that one. They did the campaign reporting stuff back in 2002. We qualified our initiative the same year. They were attacking me on that one. What do I say about the chair? It's like so classic. So I'm down in Olympia testifying against this really bad bill that they're about to pass that exempts them from the Public Records Act. And so I'm wearing my red, white, and blue Let the Voters Decide t-shirt. So I'm already in Olympia testifying on this. I have to shoot up to Office Depot to get copies made because I have to countersue the Attorney General. The Attorney General was suing me and had recently kicked my lawyer off the case. So I'm scrambling to get up there to be able to get papers photocopied and to buy some printers. So as I'm waiting for this stuff, I see the chair, I take it out to the car. I then come back inside to pay for it, the printers, and the copies. I'm standing in line. I get a phone call from a public interest law firm, the Institute of Free Speech, and they are somebody that was almost going to be able to, or I had been reaching out to for months to represent me. Now that I lost my my previous lawyers because the AG had gotten them kicked off, so I was distracted. I was clearly there to be able to pay for everything. I told the checker, I have the printers, I have that, I have the chair. I get all that stuff, I conveyed it. When I walked out of the store, I thought I had paid for everything. I then drive away. I then go down to Olympia, file the paperwork with the court. I then shoot back up, and I have lunch with Glenn Morgan. Clearly, a guy wearing a red, white, and blue Let the Voters Decide t-shirt, not a hoodie and sunglasses, but a big, huge shirt, kind of gives it away that maybe he hasn't taken a chair. Maybe the idea that I went back into the store after taking the chair might give you some pause as to whether or not I really meant to take a chair. If I meant to take it, I probably would have driven away. I didn't. I went back in because I was going to pay for it. How did they track me down? They tracked me down because I'm a preferred customer at Office Depot, and they had my phone number based on the receipt where I had just spent $300, and it didn't occur to them that maybe spending an extra $70 for a chair may have been an oversight. Instead of calling me, they ended up calling the cops. So what do I say to all this? What do I say to people? It's silly. It's dumb. It's nothing. That's it. That's all you've got? Inslee sends $1 billion to Nigeria, and you want to beat up on me on whether or not I did my reporting correctly on one of my campaigns, where the reporting is the responsibility of the treasurer? Really, what it boils down to is I've accomplished so much because I've stayed focused on what matters. And voters have had a chance to weigh in on all the stuff I'm being accused of, and they already dismissed it as being silly and dumb. The stuff that's dropping on the other guys in this race, all the stuff that they're dealing with is brand new. Nobody knows who they are, so all they're learning for the first time is all their garbage, and they're getting to know them at the same time. They're being defined and attacked at the same time. I'm already defined for the last 22 years as the guy who's the $30 tabs guy, the guy who's fighting back. When they hit me with the stuff that they hit me with, I just roll my eyes and go, well, here's just another attack because I've been effective. So let me see. Tim Eyman for governor. Does Trump support Tim? Excellent question. Trump, I'm sure, will support whoever wins the nomination in August. I think he's probably going to be pretty eager to actually support somebody that's like him. Interestingly, my middle name is Donald, Timothy Donald Eyman. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I've been often called the Donald Trump of Washington State, and I think it's because the media doesn't like me. The media attacks me all the time. I attack the media back. I don't take any guff off of anybody. And I think that I have shown the same kind of resilience, the same kind of persistence, frankly, the same kind of energy that the president has. I'm telling you, I am pedal to the metal in this race for governor, and I see our president running a very similar kind of race where it's pedal to the metal in what he's doing. And that's what you need. That's what you want. You want to have somebody that everybody knows. Everybody knew Donald Trump's name when he ran for president. Everybody knows Tim Eyman's name, and I think that that is a big, big, big plus. So will Trump support me? I think he will. I hope he comes to our state. I voted for him last time. I'm voting for him this time. But let's be honest. I mean, this is Washington State. We're probably going to vote for Biden. That's just the reality. Even though he's got Alzheimer's, even though he probably doesn't even know what state he's in, that's probably how it's going to play out. So I've never understood why everybody gets all worked up about whether or not you're a supporter or non-supporter. I mean, some of the other candidates in the race were never Trumpers in the past. You know, whatever. It doesn't really bother me that much that they were never Trumpers. Who cares? It didn't really matter. But the fact that we are dealing with this issue is because the previous candidates that ran for this office tried to play this game of, are you for the nominee of your own party? And they tried to parse it. Chris Vance, what a moron. He actually thought it was a vote-getting move on his part to attack the president while running for the U.S. Senate. It just was the nuttiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. So anyway, from TL, so what's the next step with the lawsuit regarding the mask mandate? Is there a place for updates? Thanks. Email updates. You will always get them from me. You'll get them from me all the time. Go and sign up. Go to tim4gov.com, tim4gov.com. Sign up for our updates. Donate. Asking everybody to donate tonight. Like, love, comment, and make sure to share the page. Can someone point me to the RCW, Revised Code of Washington, that gives Jay the ability to bypass the House and the Senate to create legislation so that he can unconstitutionally arrest me for not wearing a mask? There is no such RCW. He's making it up as he goes, and the whole reason why we're doing the lawsuits is to highlight the fact that nowhere in the Constitution does he have the power to be able to do this. Ray Carter asked the question, how do we hold businesses like Target accountable for posting mask signs that claim it's a law? Clearly, this is illegal, and having employees enforce this as a law is unethical. My wife was discriminated against yesterday for not wearing a mask when she has a medical issue. That violates her basic civil rights. Jay Inslee wants everyone attacking everyone else and not attacking him. They want us to be mad at Target. They want us mad at each other. He has this snitch list. The whole idea of everything Inslee does right now is distraction, and it's to get you to not focus in on him and the horrible job he's doing. Frankly, the mask move is a way for us to not highlight the fact that he raised taxes 30 times, raising taxes $50 billion. He squandered $1 billion, lost it to Nigerian princes. We're not talking about that and the fact that single moms are not getting their unemployment checks because we're talking about the mask. Jay Inslee wants us distracted. I am laser beam focused on keeping the focus on Jay Inslee. That's why it's sueinslee.com, why it's dumpinslee.com. Everything about this campaign is focused on that. While the other candidates are attacking one another and leaking information to the press so they can attack one another while they're destroying one another, I am absolutely laser beam focused solely on Jay Inslee and what a horrible job he's doing. You're not seeing me pointing out all the things about the other guys that are running. I don't have to. Apparently they're just doing it all for me against one another. Leaking information, it's just what they're doing. It's just, I don't get it. But it makes them feel good, so we'll let them do that. What can you do about Target? Cut Target some slack. They're stuck in this impossible position, being told that they're going to be hit with $10,000 fines unless they do it. So let us all treat each other kindly. If you're wearing a mask, fine. You don't want to wear a mask, fine. Let's just leave each other alone. Let's try and cut each other some slack. Why don't we keep our focus on Jay Inslee? Jay Inslee's the problem. That's where we need to leave our focus. Mr. Eyman, Chris Mayeda. Mr. Eyman, what do you plan to do about the sex ed bill? That snake signed it at 2 a.m. Will that be removed or fixed? It's a very, very important point. This comprehensive sex ed bill was coming down the pike. I saw it coming. Many parents groups were organizing against it. I ended up designing an initiative that didn't just get rid of the bill. It got rid of the underlying law, made sure that it basically went further. It actually got rid of, roots and all, the very concept of OSPI, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, having any authority over the local schools. there is a fundamental RCW now that they built on top of with Senate Bill 5395 that ended up exacerbating it and making it mandatory. The initiative that I designed, Initiative 1101 as it turned out, actually was called Protect Our Kids' Innocence. And it gets rid of 5395, gets rid of the underlying law, mandates that any parent must opt in their kid to a sex ed class. That gives the ultimate in local control to the parents themselves. It allowed the teachers to opt out. And it mandated and prohibited the use of any R-rated or X-rated material for any kid that's under 17. This initiative, ballot measure, was there in the event that referendum 90 did not qualify for the ballot. We wanted to have a backup plan in the event that referendum 90 didn't make it. And it's nothing short of a miracle that referendum 90 qualified for the ballot. By all the rules of ballot measures, they were never going to make it. And I wanted to make sure that the voters had the option to be able to use an initiative instead. Because the initiative has from now until the end of December to collect the signatures. These guys had like 45 days, like maybe 50 days. And they had hardly any money to be able to do it. I mean, the faith community really needs to give themselves a pat on the back because the faith community was the one that really came out of the woodwork. And it's really impressive. I fought many times on a lot of social issues with ballot measures, and it's sometimes very hard to get the faith community, the churches, to actually participate. And in this case, all guns a-blazing, they end up getting twice as many signatures. Now, let us quickly acknowledge, with all that effort, it's always it starts with the idea. Inslee signed into law a horrible, horrible bill that mandated toddlers get taught sex ed. It is absolutely fundamentally a horrible, horrible proposal. So doing a opposition to that is a relatively easy thing to do. What's amazing is that they got that many signatures in such a short time with a lockdown going on at the same time. So this ballot measure, referendum 90, I am absolutely convinced the voters are just going to crush it in November. You're going to reject referendum 90 in November. The language of a referendum is kind of confusing. It says the legislature passed Senate Bill, probably in gross substitute Senate Bill 5395 related to comprehensive sex ed. You're going to vote no on that. Do you accept what the legislature did or do you reject what the legislature did? You're voting to reject it. That is, I think, very likely to occur. In the event that it doesn't happen, there's no doubt you have this initiative that has the ability to do it as well, and you could do the initiative next year as well. And as governor, I could absolutely do a lot of things in order to be able to slow that. What are your top 3 things you'd like to make happen as governor? Says Chris McCloy. Top 3 things you'd like to make happen. It is hard for me to overstate the importance of the symbolism and the substance of $30 tabs. It's what I've fought for 22 years. It's something that I've qualified for the ballot 3 times, but the voters have voted for it 3 times. I actually did 7 or 8 initiatives to lower car tabs in the process of getting there. $30 tabs defines Jay Inslee by him saying that voters were confused. It illustrates how arrogant he is. It shows how unrepresentative he is, how much of a ruler he is. I am absolutely committed to making sure that every person in the state of Washington, when they license their vehicle, writes a check for $30 and not a penny more. You want to go optional personalized license plates, you're on your own. You're going to pay extra for that. But the absolute amount you write your check for is $30 to license it. I fundamentally believe that has to be job 1. Job 2, making sure that we open up Washington immediately. All businesses are essential. No mask requirement. We must open up our schools. We must absolutely open up our state. We must fight for safety, liberty, and a strong economy. We must do all 3 legs of that stool: safety, liberty, and a strong economy. We must have all three at all times. We cannot sacrifice liberty, sacrifice the economy in order to supposedly make us safer. Because if you lose liberty and you lose the strong economy, you do not make yourself safer. You make yourself more susceptible to a tyrant like Inslee is. You make yourself more susceptible to less tax revenue that you actually use for the government services that we all expect, like education and public health. So opening up Washington, making sure that under no circumstances anybody's going to pay more than $30, and fundamentally, it's to be a check on the Seattle legislature and the Seattle Supreme Court. Fundamentally, I'm going to set a Guinness Book of World Records when it comes to actually vetoing legislation that comes out of this legislature. I want to just scare you for a little bit because it's terrifying to me. Every legislative session, there are 3,000 bills introduced, nearly 3,000. Of those, every year, roughly 500 of them become law. 3,000 ideas, 5,000 laws. We've had Jay Inslee for 8 years. Do the math, people. He has signed into law 4,000 bills. 4,000 laws during 8 years. I would take 4,000 of those and probably close to 3,500 to 3,900 of them were expansions of government power. If you're going to have a massive expansion of government power, I'm not your governor. I'm not the guy you want to be your governor. I would be vetoing those kinds of pieces of legislation. And if they want to pass it, get a 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate, because it's the only way you're going to get stuff passed into law that expands government power. Because comprehensive sex ed, expansion of government power. Sanctuary state, expansion of government power. Affirmative action, the way that Jay Inslee wants to have it be done, where the government's treating people differently based on what group they belong to, should you allow those kinds of things to occur. So I am absolutely committed to that. And final thing, I just maybe make it number 4, is the idea that we're going to raise taxes in the middle of a time where Inslee has absolutely tanked the economy is absolutely the worst thing we could ever do. We have to make sure that there's no tax increases on anyone in the state of Washington. At the state level, the county level, the city level, we cannot be raising taxes because that's going to make it harder for our job creators to come back. I don't want employers leaving the state of Washington, and we're going to have them leave if we're sitting here taking a bad situation to make it worse. And what Kshama Sawant did in Seattle, I said it, I'll say it again, she should be in jail. She should not be a city council member. Pushing that level of socialism onto the people of our state, of our counties, of our cities, letting that cancer of an income tax, that cancer of a jobs tax catch a foothold and have a beachhead in one of the most important economies that we have in our state is the Seattle economy. Cannot stand. Whether it's a local referendum to overturn it, whether it's a statewide initiative to overturn it, whether it's us stopping it at the state level, we must include something in there that just under no circumstances can we be raising taxes. It's just absolutely beyond the pale. I've got a couple more minutes here. I'm flipping through here. Oh my God, we got so many people commenting. I'm doing my best to try and keep up with it. So what I really want to emphasize to people is, again, share this page, like this page, comment on this page. Make sure you let me know your questions. We're going to try and get back to them. Top 3 things, I mentioned those. That is my list. Oh my God, I can't believe I actually got through this. Let's see. I want to believe in Tim, then clean home. I'm a voter. I want to believe in Tim, then clean home. I'm a voter. I believe in Tim. Clearly, I'm 54 years old now. Born and raised in Yakima. I ended up going to Washington State University, got a business degree. I wrestled on the wrestling team. Sophomore, I got 3rd in the Pac-10. I've been an athlete. I did very well in school. I after graduating from college, I ended up starting my own entrepreneurial business. I've always been very entrepreneurial and aggressively did that business for 14 years. Met Karen. We ended up getting married. Tried to have kids kind of the natural way for 5 years. Didn't work. We ended up adopting kids. Married 25, 26 years. Done initiatives for 22 years. Lived the best life I could. I'm doing everything I can to fight for people, to fight for taxpayers, to do the things that I think are good. I think I'm a good dad. Jackson, Jeremy, Riley are turning out to be great kids. I've done everything I could to provide for my family. I feel bad that Bob Ferguson feels the need that in order to destroy me, he needs to go after my family as well. I feel bad that that is occurring. I'm doing everything I can to protect my family. I'm doing all sorts of things that where people kind of look at me and wonder what's going on, and I just have to assure people that everything I'm doing to protect my family, and I would, walk over glass to protect them. I need to assure people that my family understands me. They understand that this is something that I feel I need to do, and that they understand that Bob Ferguson is not a good guy and doing everything he can with his lawsuit in order to blackmail me into stopping my political activism in the state of Washington. And I think the reason he's doing it is because I'm a threat. I'm a threat because I have ideas that voters agree with. I have ideas that resonate with voters that they're not getting any other way. That especially now, as I'm running for governor, it scares them over the idea of, well, wait a minute here. We can't control millions of voters. We must try and destroy Tim Eyman so that he actually doesn't have an opportunity to be able to make himself a candidate. So the entire structure of government is trying to crack down on the possibility of somebody who's a real fighter actually being the person that takes on Jay Inslee. It's the last thing they want. They would much rather have somebody running against Jay Inslee that nobody's heard of, that hasn't actually delivered something, that's only making promises. They would love that because the introduction of this new person would be a definition of them at the same time. And pick whatever thing you're going to attack them on. It doesn't even have to be true. It just has to have some semblance of truth to it, and it's enough to get people to kind of doubt the whole thing. When it comes to me, everything they're hitting me with is everybody's heard it, everybody's evaluated it, and they all think it is kind of silly. A $70 chair. Would Tim spend $300 for printers? Would Tim be wearing a red, white, and blue t-shirt? Would Tim have gone back into the store? Would Tim have actually spent $300 for the printers but not want to pay for the chair? It's all kind of silly. The campaign reporting stuff, all the paperwork, fundamentally, it is fundamentally flawed because all reporting is the responsibility of the treasurer. And our treasurer was a certified public accountant. He's a professional CPA. He made the determination that these transactions didn't be on the campaign report because they weren't campaign contributions. It is very clear in all the laws that when you set up a legal defense fund and you ask people, help me be able to survive this lawsuit so I can pay my lawyers, that is exempt from reporting. All the people that gave me money, they are not complaining. They all knew that I was going to use the money to survive the lawsuit. That's why they didn't make it payable to a campaign. They made it payable to Tim Eyman Legal Defense Fund, Tim Eyman and family. They were doing it because they wanted it to go to me and not to a campaign. These same people were giving money to the initiative campaigns I was doing. They knew the difference. So you can't find any of them that are complaining. The only people complaining is Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson's the only one who's complaining about it. He's the one whining about it. The media loves it. But at the end of the day, the average voter, they just don't care. What they care about is the fact that Jay Inslee raised their taxes $50 billion, squandered $5 million running for president, spend $1 billion in Nigerian princes, but couldn't actually deliver unemployment checks to the people who actually paid into the system, who said that some people are essential and some people aren't non-essential. The fact that he's mandating masks. He doesn't want to talk about any of this stuff. But you think about it, what's so amazing about the opportunity we have is that if I'm the nominee, if I'm the person who gets to take on Jay Inslee, you've hired to take out Jay Inslee, somebody who's battle tested, who's collected an enormous amount of goodwill by reducing people's taxes, that they know my name just by sight. They actually have a personal relationship with me because I've already saved them money, even if they've never met me. And they know that they can't control that many voters. And they know that I have my own brand. I have my own persona. I have my own dynamic going on that's independent of Donald Trump, independent of the Republican Party, independent of politics. I can't tell you how many people just tune out politics because the people who run for office normally don't even speak the English language as far as they're concerned. They talk about RCWs and WACs and what bill they introduced and these kinds of things. I keep it pretty basic. You know, our Constitution is the fundamental document we have to go off of, and Inslee isn't following it. We voted for $30 tabs, and we want that, and we don't want a politician who says we're confused. I don't want to send $1 billion to Nigeria. Jay Inslee does. I don't want to run for president and squander $5 million on security. Jay Inslee does. I want to be governor. Jay Inslee doesn't want to be governor. He wants to just simply win so he can take another job in Washington, D.C. That's the whole thing. He doesn't even care about Washington. He spends all his time. I get his emails. I get his updates. All he talks about is the president. It's the only thing that interests him. He's bored with me, bored with you, has no interest in Washington State anymore. And we need to have somebody who's a fighter who's going to actually point that out to voters. The other thing that I think everyone needs to kind of get used to is when you're running for office, you're going to say the same thing over and over again to the point where people like yourselves are going to be listening to me and you're going to wonder, does Tim have, dementia? He keeps saying the same thing over and over. Does he have short-term memory loss? It's 22 years of training. 22 years of training myself to be focused on what's important in order to be able to get voters to get this very simple message it's going to take to win the election. $30 tabs. I would talk about $30 tabs. I remembered how many people told me, don't you want to impress people with all the things you know? Don't you want to educate people on all these various things? And I'm going, no, I'm just satisfied winning the election. I want to win the election. I think that's the highest priority of a candidate, is to win the election. We've had candidates, and Republican Party, unfortunately, has been running candidates who seem to run for second, that seem to acknowledge the fact that they think they're going to lose, so they act like they're going to lose, and so therefore they don't want to offend the Democrat they're running against. I take great joy and great pride in offending Democrats. It's what I do. But I do it because I know that the majority of voters are on my side, and I'm willing to do that because that's what it takes to actually win the race. I am 1,000% committed to good public policy, things that limit government's power, to making sure that I represent the people, that I listen to you, and if you tell me something and it makes sense, I'm actually willing to move off it. But it's always going to be through persuasion. It's not going to be through coercion. There's too much coercion in government. We need to have somebody that understands the fundamental role of our government in our entire system, and they are subjugated to the voters. The voters are primary. Voters, the people, they are the employer. The employee is the government. I can't tell you how many elected officials think their job is to represent the government, to defend the government, that their job is to explain to people why the government does what it's doing, as opposed to representing the voters with a government that is 99 times out of 100 hostile to what they're trying to do. So I am absolutely, oh God, a restaurant called Sur La Table just filed for bankruptcy. There are so many small businesses that are suffering right now. There are so many individuals that are suffering right now. I want to absolutely do everything I can to make your lives better. Not by doing tons of things for you, but by allowing you to do things for yourself. I am absolutely committed to making sure that we have a government that respects the Constitution, keeps us safe, makes sure that we use existing revenues and don't take more of your money, realize that an open government or an open state is the absolute best way to get the economy moving and for us to be able to get things going. And if you really want to make people safe, respect their constitutional rights, respect their liberty, respect their right to be able to personally protect themselves and their Second Amendment rights. In the midst of all this anarchy going on in Seattle, I think it was a perfect illustration of when the bad guys have guns and the innocent people don't, only the bad guys win. If innocent, law-abiding citizens are able to protect themselves, they don't have to worry as much about law enforcement. Law enforcement is an absolutely critical role in our state and in our local communities, but there are many times the law enforcement is never going to get there. When I was in the now lawful zone the second time, just several days ago after the Kashama Sawant stuff, I went up there and I was talking to a local business guy, owned a food truck, and he was talking about how in the midst of all this awfulness, he would call law enforcement. Hours would go by, nobody showed. Hours would go by, nobody showed. Just kept going on and on and on. They couldn't show up. What do you do when the law enforcement can't be there? Sometimes you have to be the first responder. Sometimes you have to be the immediate responder. And unfortunately, Jay Inslee doesn't respect that basic constitutional right. I do. I fought for the Second Amendment for many, many, many years behind the scenes, working with the Second Amendment Foundation, working with Alan Gottlieb, working with our own attorney, doing a lawsuit to actually keep 1639 from even going on the ballot in the first place, doing an initiative that actually fought back against Initiative 594 in 2016. You don't know these things about me because I don't have to be in charge of everything. I'm perfectly satisfied working with people in the conservative movement so that they have their constitutional rights and their things that they advocate for helped along the way. So I facilitate a lot of that stuff. I think I'm in my last minute. So we're going to go ahead and close this thing out. I just want to say I love you all. I am so grateful that so many people are helping me with this campaign for governor. I am grateful to everybody that's willing to choose me in August. I am absolutely making you proud to have me as your candidate. I'm working my tail off. We're scoring some tremendous victories every step of the way, leaving the other guys alone, letting them go after each other and do all the stuff that they do. Well, I stay focused on Jay Inslee because that's what I've been doing for 22 years, is staying focused and not allowing myself to be distracted by the crap that's out there. And the thing that I'm really proud of too is that even people who disagree with me, I'm fine with that. When Tri-Cities people were heckling Inslee, he just ran away like a little boy or a little girl. He couldn't take any kind of criticism. Criticism comes with a job. I've been criticized for 22 years. I have no problem with it because that's part of the job. You have to be willing to accept criticism from people. You just have to be willing to say, you may disagree with me, but I think a majority of voters are on my side. I'm going to continue to advocate the stuff that I believe in. That's what I will do as your governor. You give me a chance, I will deliver conservative victory after conservative victory, and you will be so proud of Washington State. You're going to see a transformation like you've never seen before because we've had 35 years of one-party rule where they really haven't allowed anybody that's conservative to really be able to have a voice, and our ideas work if we just give them a chance. So I'm asking you guys, share this page, like this page, comment, and whatever you do, make sure and donate It's Tim, the number 4, gov.com/donate/volunteer/yard-signs. Help me be able to become the governor of this great state. I've lived here all my life. I want to be your governor. Vote for me, and I'll be a really good one. So love you guys.